Can God destroy the righteous with the wicked, brothers and sisters? Is it possible that the righteous can be destroyed together alongside with the wicked people? Can one man's sin bring displeasure and disaster of God upon the church? What is thus say the Lord in regard to this? That the righteous are destroyed along with the wicked. I welcome you to this episode, brothers and sisters. This presentation will be entitled Free from Corporate Sin. It is an answer to the question that was asked by my brother who is from Solomon Islands, so specifics. Many of God people understand that salvation depends upon their being saved and free from personal sin through the blood and the grace of Jesus Christ. But are they lost to understand that they must also be free from corporate sin? Especially are our people ignorant of the fact that they can be accounted impure just by their union, membership, association with impure church. Even though they may overcome all the personal sins, even though they may overcome all their own sins, but they are still connected and associated together with the corrupt church. In this case, no one can be free completely from their sin. They cannot be free completely from the spot and stings of the sins if they are connected with the impure church. This is called corporate responsibility. It is true that we are not safe in group, neither are we safe in association. But it is true also we can be lost by belonging to a corrupt church. Corporate responsibility or corporate accountability central around the individuals being held guilty for the sins of others because of their union, membership, and association with the groups of other individuals such as church, institution, organization, and etc. Basically, it is called corporate body. Even if an individual did not personally participate in the sin committed, yet they are held responsible along with the rest of the group, brothers and sisters, because of their association and union with this corrupt church or with this corrupt body. This principle of truth is clearly taught in the Word of God, being seen in two main areas. The sin of membership make the whole corporate body responsible, and the sin of leadership make the whole corporate body responsible. We will examine each one by one. And let us begin with Achan in the book of Joshua chapter 7, verse 1, verse 17 up to verse 12. Achan disobeyed God's commandment by taking some of the spoil for himself and hiding it under the tent, thus committing sin. But even though Achan alone has committed sin because he was a member of Israel, what happened? God considered the whole corporate body of Israel responsible. So far, for the sin of one man, the whole church body was held accountable and suffered. God's command has been disregarded by one of the appointed to execute his judgment, and the nation was held accountable for the guilty of the transgressor. Achan's sin brought disaster upon the whole Israel. For one man is sin, the displeasure of God will rest upon the church until the transgression is sought out and put away. You can find this in Petrarch and Prophet 494 and 497. You can also find that in volume 3 of Testimony for the Church 265 and 269 and 517. You can also find that in manuscript and releases page 1 after 2. But what about the sin of leadership? That is the personal sin. That is the sin of one man. That is the sin of membership. What about the sin of the leadership? When the leaders commit sin, those who control the group, the church, the institution, and the organization, can any entire corporate body be held accountable for the sinful action of their church leaders? Yes. God commanded Jeremiah to go and speak strongly and plainly cutting a word to God, his people Israel. That is the time when God sent Jeremiah. The church leader did not like this message, especially the part about the church pulling from God's grace and protection. Pardon me, sorry. When Jeremiah came to speak, telling the leaders of the church that your church is Babylon Poland, that God is pleasure, God is disgrace about whatever you are doing in the church, the message was not like when Jeremiah said that your church is connected with Babylon and it is completely controlled by Satan. You can find that in Jeremiah 21, verse 4 up to verse 6. In Jeremiah 27, verse 2 up to verse 6. Jeremiah 28, verse 14. And Jeremiah 32, verse 5. Needless to say that the church leadership affirmed Jeremiah and brought him into before the councils. They stated that Jeremiah was worthy to die. Why? Why was Jeremiah worthy to die? Because he has spoken against the church. You can find that in Jeremiah 26, verse 11. When Jeremiah heard their words, he said that they could do with him as they wish, but they must realize an important principle, which is the first principle. In Jeremiah 26, verse 15, it says, but know ye for a certain that if ye, the church leadership, put me to death, ye shall surely bring innocent blood upon yourself, and upon this city, and upon the inhabitant thereof. So it was not just the church leadership. If the church leadership killed Jeremiah and put Jeremiah into death, brothers and sisters, it is not just only the church leadership that will be held accountable. It is not the church leadership that will be irresponsible for Jeremiah's death, but his blood would also be chargeable against the city or the church, against all the inhabitants or the members thereof. That for the sinful action of the leadership, the whole corporate body, membership, and all would be held accountable. Is there, thus say the Lord, in regard to that? That through the sin of the leadership, the whole church members and the whole nation can be held accountable? From the spirit of prophecy in the book Cry Object Lesson, page 305, we are told, a nation is sin and a nation is ruined were due to the religious leaders. That is it. So a nation is sins and a nation is destruction were brought because of the religious leaders. But what consequences are there in being held corporately responsible for the sin of wicked church leadership? Just because you are a member of or associated with or connected with that. What is the consequence? In the book of Hosea chapter 2 verse 2, the word of the Lord says, how can a little member be ill accountable for the sin of the leadership? Because this member is just connected with the church? Because this member is just associating with the church? Because this member has the membership in the church? How can that member be ill accountable, friend? Hosea chapter 2 verse 2, it says, plead with your mother, the church. You know, the mother of the church in the Bible. Plead with your mother, the church. Plead for she is not my wife. In other words, plead for she is not my church. This is Christ speaking. Neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredom out of her sign and her adulteries from between her breath. So what was the sin of God's chosen church in the above text, the one we have just read now? It was a whoredom or harlotry. How can a chosen church of God commit harlotry, brethren? The church is supposed to be a faithful bride or a wife to Christ. But if this wife chooses to no longer live for Christ and him alone and depart from her husband, uniting herself with another lover or with many lovers, she commit adultery or harlotry. She is then no longer a faithful bride of Christ, but has become a harlot church. And please realize that the church itself literally does not commit harlotry, but it is the church leadership who united the whole church body in adulteries, love affairs with the other church. It is not the little church itself that commit adultery. It is the leaders of the church that unite the church with other corrupt churches. It is the leaders of the church that united the church with the world. Thus, they led the whole